else that was quite gimmicky and a little bit more in tune with Google's AI and stuff is a game that came out a little while ago. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I mean, the studio behind it, Rocksteady, they did everything to make this a massive, massive hit. I mean, they worked with this consultant agency, Sweet Baby Inc., and everything. And they did this to ensure that everyone could see themselves in the game and that everyone would feel represented and seen. So because that way the audiences would flock to it. It would be glorious. Well, now we have some numbers. So we don't necessarily have the numbers, but we do have the impression given from the heads of Warner, who are the ultimate owners here. IGN did a great write-up here, which you'll find behind the scenes, Tom, so we can get it up on screen, mayhaps. And it would appear that they were somewhat less than impressed with everything that was done to make this a hit, because Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has fallen short of our expectations, Warner Brothers says. Yeah, that is one way to say that the game just bombed completely horribly. Culture, you're of course familiar with this story. You want to take us through it? How impressed were they with everything that was done to make this a game and how it all worked out?
Well, I think their expectations were rather high. This was something that they were riding on, so much so that if you remember back just 3 years ago at, what were they calling that? DC, the DC event that they hosted, both
the one and only
person.
one I think they did.
Yeah, in person and also digitally. They were so excited to announce this particular game, and they thought, because of the reception there, that it was going to be really popular from the beginning. The problem was people, learned what was behind the game, who was behind the game, and what it contained. And it was drastically different than what their perception of the previous Arkham games were. So when you end up with a launch where people are immediately asking for refunds at a huge price tag of, well, I think $70. I think it's right there. And the fact that the two founders of Rocksteady during the game's development decided they were going to leave and go on to do a different gaming studio because they weren't feeling it. I think that gave us a lot of indications that this was not going well. And as you pointed out, it still hasn't. As of this moment that we're talking right now, the game has dropped to the lowest Steam player count multiple times and below 1,000 players playing the game at any one time. As a matter of fact, as of just 6 days ago, the last article that was written specifically on that, you're seeing it drop around to about 900 in the 900s of people actually playing this game on Steam. That's an indicator of just how much interest is in any given game. So, the fact that this has fallen short of Warner Brothers' expectations, well, I think it fell very short of the gamers' expectations from the very beginning. I don't know. Today, the reason we're getting these stories is because today was Warner Brothers' financial call. And this is basically what they said. This has fallen short of our expectations.
Indeed, and we'll talk more about this afterwards. But this is kind of like what I wanted to hear your thoughts on here first, because we only have you for a limited time. Because of course, this is the highlight that we're interested in. But were there anything else that came out of this Warner Bros. Talk that stood out to you?
Outside of the fact that this game had a very poor launch from the very beginning, they had an early access aspect to this game to obviously test server load and other things. It immediately failed right out of the box and created an instance where nobody could actually get in to play the game during the quote unquote early access. They tried to they tried to solve that problem and make gamers feel better by offering an in-game credit that was basically about $20 worth of in-game currency, which they call Luther coins. It's about 2,000 Luther coins, but it didn't remedy a lot of people's sour taste coming right out. And then, of course, all the leaks that we talked about going back a few weeks ago, with essentially how they treated the last appearance of one of the most iconic voice actors as Batman, and how he was eliminated in this game. The writing, the dialogue has been widely criticized, as has the action and the scenes. And it, like I said, it didn't feel in line with the previous games that were made, the previous Arkham games. So, yeah, as far as this goes, well, I mean, at least they could point towards, as they suggest in this article, Hogwarts Legacy, which was actually the best selling game of 2023, and how well that has maintained its status and playability with gamers.
Well, they also, that's a woke game also, but they managed to hide it better.
It has a couple of elements in there that certainly weren't present in the books. And that's kind of, when somebody says they're going to pivot to less political stuff, they don't mean that they're not going to have all the political stuff in there that they're required to meet their policies. It just means they're going to try to hide it better.
I think what's changed is back in the day when you tried your best to create a game and it failed, then it just failed. But now with little baby, what's their names, and this core group,
Sweet Baby Inc.
Sweet Baby Inc. and this core group of Vanguard dimwits, they're never going to admit failure. That's the difference, is that they will always believe that what they've done is the right thing.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
Yeah, but here's the problem. When you release something like that, whether it be, the right thing or not, when you release a game that dips 85% in just 2 weeks after release, you didn't make a good product. Look, the number of refund claims before the game was officially out was measurable, and I mean, people having like outright fights with the services they pre-purchased from to try to get their money back. This can't continue in the gaming business. It's going to gut it. I mean, how much money do you think goes into, let's say, the next big game coming out, which is the GTA 6 game? How much money went into that game ultimately? How many hundreds of millions? Because that's what we're talking about. So let's assume that they spent about $300 to $600 million on that game. And believe it or not, that's not outside.
Oh, yeah, no. Games can be very expensive.
And with the success of GTA 5 and how they were able to span 3 consoles and the PC market
and years,
and just sheer volume of years, right? Do you think that GTA 6 will measure up similarly? I don't imagine.
Probably not. No, I doubt it.
So, and this is part of the conversation. It's like, if you're going to dump that kind of money into a game, and Rocksteady was late on this, by the way. This game was delayed like at least 2 years, if I remember correctly. So that's even more money down the tube, right? Because it's not like you're not working on that game for that 2-year period. You're not paying people. You're not working with the latest technology. You're not begging to get a peek of somebody's console plans. You're working towards this thing working for the future. So they dumped all that R&D, all that development time, all the re-recorded lines of dialogue, everything, and cutscenes, right? They did all of that, and they put out something like this that is now considered roundly rejected. Look, the future of gaming is the past, because anything going forward, especially if Sweet Baby Inc. is involved,
Sweet Baby Stink.
Yeah, there's no hope.
Maybe Disney in their genius, they just put in like $1.5 billion into Epic.
Well, and then the other problem that they have
is they're trying to get back into gaming. They dumped their gaming studio in 2016.
Yeah,
which was a smart move.
No. No, I mean, look, there's a conversation to be had about all these media companies, but this particular thing is derailed in lots of ways. They continue to make unpopular decisions that gamers don't like. And if now they're making unpopular games, they're doomed. And by unpopular decisions, I'm talking gaming as a service, live, the always connected bologna sausage that this game, tried to live under. It created a nightmare. I don't know. You've made games, Paul. You would have more to say about it than I would.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Mass Effect 3 multiplayer invented loot boxes, but it was well balanced.
Right.
And you could play the entire game and get all the weapons and everything that you needed if you grinded. Grinding, but it wasn't ridiculous grinding. And from that point on, they kind of lost it. They just got greedy. They went, wow, look at the money we're making off of Mass Effect 3. And greed is a terrible driver when it comes to gaming. And because I know we were building games in the heyday of games, and you could make a lot of money from them, but nobody I knew, none of their motivation was greed. We just wanted to make the best game possible. And if we were lucky enough to sell a lot of them, then you made money. But no one I knew at the core of any of those businesses, Carmack, all those guys, nobody, was promoting greed. So
how many copies do you think this game sold?
Oh, I have no idea.
Under 1,000.
Okay, under 1,000 copies of the game.
Well, I mean, that are still active, I'd probably say.
Oh, no, you're right. Yeah, you're 100% right there, Script.
Okay.
No, but I mean, originally, how many copies do you think they sold up front? Million? 2 million?
I'm sure it did pretty well up front.
Yeah, I think it probably did okay up front. Yeah.
All right.
I would imagine a few 100,000.
Yeah, and it sold across the breadth of consoles, right?
Right.
I know we know for sure that that this kind of it got everything, including the PS5. That is probably the most widely accepted console. I'm sorry, Xbox folks, but it's true. And you have live gameplay over there dwindling down to almost nothing, less than 4,000 most of the time. And I mean, you just go through all these services and track the entire number of player base, and this game fell off the table. But this is going to be a financial loss, not just for Rocksteady, but for Warner Brothers overall. Not good.
Yeah, and well earned. I hope that they will take some valuable lessons away from this.
Yeah.
And that everyone will. Because now we're seeing failures completely and totally across the board, where a company goes hyper-partisan and hyper-political, and then they are smacked down for it. This clip was taken from Midnight's Edge in the Morning, which streams live every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 9 AM Pacific Time on the Midnight's Edge main channel. There you can send in your live questions and comments before clips and full stream replays are uploaded to Midnight's Edge live archives. We are also on Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey and Facebook, so smash that like, help share, subscribe and join us.